Yeah. It's those switchboard. And it's super loud. But just kind of the switches, both of them. Yeah, turn them both off. We turned it on earlier because it was really hot in here. And so that it cooled it down a little bit. So that's good. Yeah. You wouldn't have liked how hot it was a half hour ago. It cooled it down enough the half hour it ran. So it's good. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We're going to begin on page 129 from Shir HaShirim, a beautiful biblical love song. Dodi di vani lo haroeh bashoshanim dodi Dodi vani lo haroeh bashoshanim dodi mizotola min hamidbar mizotola min hamidbar dodi vani lo haroeh bashoshanim dodi mikuteret moru levona Moru levona dodi vani lo haroeh bashoshanim dodi libavtini Achoti chala dodi vani lo haroeh bashoshanim dodi Safon Uvoi Teman Dodi vani lo haroeh bashoshanim dodi Page 128, right in the middle of the page. Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Yedid nefesh av harachaman, mishochavtecha el ritzonecha. Mishochavdecha אל רצונך. ירוץ עבדך כמו היער, ישתחווה אל מול הדרך. ידיד נפש אב הרחמן, ידיד נפש אב הרחמן, ישוחח עבדך רצונך, ישוחח עבדך אל רצונך. ירוץ עבדך כמו היער, ישתחווה אל הדרך. On page 120, our blessings for lighting our Shabbat candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת. Page 130, we'll make our way through Kabbalat Shabbat, saying goodbye to the week and hello to the peace of Shabbat. Psalm 95. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Naria, Tzur Yishenu Nekadma Fanav B'Todah. Naria, Tzur Yishenu Mizmirot Naria Lo. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. From Psalm 96 on page 131. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, let all of the earth sing to God. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, let all the world sing a new song. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. There were a couple of confused faces that I saw, so I'm going to answer the question that those confused faces were asking, which is, why did we sing the second line first and the first line second? And the answer is because Julie Silver, who wrote the melody that we just sang, which is a really beautiful melody, wrote it that way. So that's what we get. she said, she was asked once, why did you reverse the two lines? Because this is from the book of Psalms. Why did you change the book of Psalms? And she said, I don't think God will mind. It makes the words pretty. So that was her explanation. Page 132, Psalm 97. 4 lines from the bottom. Or Zarua Lat Sadiq. Light will be made for those who are righteous people. Yishrei Lev Simcha, and there will be joy for good-hearted people. Our rewards, as they are spoken of in this psalm. 4 lines from the bottom of page 132. Or Zarua Lat Sadiq, Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zarua Lat Sadiq, Yishrei Simcha. Or Zarua Lat Sadiq, Yishrei Lev Simcha. Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zarua Lat Sadiq, Yishrei Lev Simcha. Yishrei Lev Simcha. Lai 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 lai. Or Zarua Lat Sadiq, Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zarua Lat Sadiq, Yishrei Lev Simcha. Page 135 from Psalm 99. We praise God, God's holy mountain. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, because Adonai our God is holy. The last 3 Hebrew lines of page 135. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu vehishtachavu lehar kosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu vehishtachavu lehar kosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu vehishtachavu lehar kosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu vehishtachavu lehar kosho. We'll turn to page 138. Lecha Dodi, we welcome in the image of the Shabbat bride. We'll sing verses 1 and 2 on page 138, verses 5 and 9 on page 139. Lecha, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Nikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Nikabela. La 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 la. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Nikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Nikabela. Shamor v'zachor v'diburecha, Kishmi anu el hamiyuchan, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, V'shenu tiferet b'beit kila. La 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 la. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Nikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu b'neilcha, ki mekor habracha, berosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh נעשה במחשבה תחילה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני פני, שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני פני, שבת נקבלה. Verse number 5. התעוררי, כי בעורך, קומי אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise as we face the door and welcome in the image of Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, גם בשמחה ובצורה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת חלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת חלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי, לקראת חלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת חלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Anita, you walked in right as we announced the Shabbat bride. You're the Shabbat bride tonight. It's so wonderful. We welcomed in the Shabbat bride. We'll welcome each other. Please turn with your neighbors and wish everyone around you Shabbat Shalom. And for those of you online with us on templeshalom.com and on our YouTube channel, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom again, everyone. So turn in our Siddur to page 140. Psalm 92, Psalm of Shabbat. That since very ancient times, we've had this as our Psalm of Shabbat. It was sung in the ancient temple, and we sing it today. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai. Tizamer l'shimcha elyon, tizamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai. Tizamer l'shimcha elyon, tizamer l'shimcha elyon. Lahagid baboker chastecha, אמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל עלי היגיון דרכינו. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, לזמר לשמך עליון, לזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארני. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני מאוד, עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, לזמר לשמך עליון, לזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, לזמר לשמך עליון, לזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. On page 142, an old table song, sitting around the table on Friday nights. There are still some people who sit and sing into the night after Friday night dinner and welcoming the angels that guard over us on Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Yi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch. Boachim Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch. Baruch Li Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch. Tzidchem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch. We turn to page 144 with Chatzi Kaddish. We make our way from our Kabbalat Shabbat into our evening service. Yitkadav, Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Yamad Yivrach Yerutei V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon Uv'yomechon, Uv'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Ba'agala, Uv'yizman Ka'arivim Eru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach, Le'alam Ulamei Almaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vitbar, Vitroman, Vitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shmei Dukudisha, Berichu Le'ila Min Kol Berchata, Vishirata, Tushbechata, V'nechemata, Dahamihiron Be'alma, Vimeru, Amen. Page 146, we rise for Baruch Hu. So we invite ourselves to prayer. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach. Can all be seated. We'll read together in the English in the middle of 148, a prayer giving thanks for creation. We are less than a month now away from Rosh Hashanah, where we come into a new year, 4 new years on the Jewish calendar. If you're not familiar with all of them, check Mishnah Rosh Hashanah, chapter 1, Mishnah 1. You can read all about all 4 new years. But the one that we're coming up to is the new year for years since creation. We actually had, did everybody know that we had a new year just a couple of days ago? It was 6 days ago. We had one of our 4 new years. Entering into the month of Elul, the first day of the month of Elul in the Talmud is referred to as Rosh Hashanah leBehemot, which means the new year for animals. So why is there a new year for animals? Because you tax them, that's why. Because when they're a certain age, when they're very young, you don't pay taxes on your animals. But when they get older, you do pay taxes. When they're producing milk or producing eggs or producing wool or whatever it is, you pay a tax to the temple and to the Israelite government in ancient times. And so how did you know how old it was? It's the same thing we do with racing thoroughbreds, right? For those of you who know that the birthday, every horse that's ever won the Kentucky Derby, their birthday is, anybody know? January 1st. It's the birthday of every horse that's ever won the Kentucky Derby. It's true. Everybody familiar with that? Every horse that has ever won the Kentucky Derby, or for that matter, the Preakness, or any thoroughbred race, frankly, their birthday's January 1st. That's because in the thoroughbred horse racing, every horse turns a new year on January 1st. And so if you're born December 31st on January 1st, as far as horse racing goes, you're a year-old horse. If you're born on January 2nd, when the next January 1st rolls around, you are also a year-old horse. That's how they determine how old a horse is for horse racing, because it makes it easy for the record keeping. When there's a race, you just look at what year the horse was born. You don't have to check your calendar and see what the date is that the horse was born. It might sound like a strange idea. It kind of does sound like a strange idea, really. But in ancient times, there was a similar idea. Instead of figuring out what day each cow or each goat or each sheep or each mule or each chicken was born, you just kept a record of which year that group of sheep over there were born. And then when the new year for sheep or for animals came, Rosh Hashanah leBehemot, on the 1st of Elul, you would know when they turned 3 that you now had to pay taxes on your animals. So that's why in ancient times we had this ancient new year. We also have a new year for kings. We also have a new year for trees. And we also have a new year for years since creation. And that's the one coming up in about 23 or 4 days, whatever it is, something like that. And as we do, this prayer on page 148 takes on a little extra meaning, because it talks about the idea of creation. Let's read it together in English first, and then we'll sing the very end of it. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Ha'ravim lai 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 lai. Page 150, we give thanks for the words of Torah. We're also coming close to the end of the reading of the Torah. We're in the midst of Deuteronomy, in the midst of Moses' second very long speech. And in just a little more than a month, about a month and a half or so, we'll be at the holiday of Simchat Torah. We'll roll the Torah to the beginning and start learning it again. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Hukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadita Al ken Adonai Eloheinu Shofreinu v'kuleinu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'v'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki hem Chayenu Ve'orech Yameinu Uvahem Neged Yomam Ve'layla Ve'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Page 153. Hear, O Israel. Listen up, Israel. Adonai is our God, and there is only one God. Blessed is that God's glorious majesty forever and forever. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם.
Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. Coming into our Geula, our prayer of redemption, page 157, we'll read together at the very top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. We sing that song of freedom, page 158. Elim Adonai, Bikamocha neder b'kodesh, Norati kilot osef eleh, Norati kilot osef eleh. Malachutecha ra'u fanecha, Ukei hayam nifli Moshe u'Miriam, Ze Eli anu ve'amru, Ve'eli anu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גואל ישראל. Page 160. Lie us down, Adonai our God, and cause us to rise up again tomorrow to life. Guard us from enemy and illness and war, and famine and sorrow. Keep us away from wrongdoing. Praised are you, Adonai, who spreads your shelter of peace over us, over Israel, over all the world. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu b'shalom v'ha'amidenu shomreinu b'chayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu b'shalom v'ha'amidenu shomreinu b'chayim. The three indented lines. Ushmor tzitinu uvoinu l'chaim u'shalom mitzav yad olam. Yai lalai lai lai lalai, yai lalai lai lai lalai, yai lalai lai lai lai, lai lai lalai, yai lalai lai. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu v'shalom v'hamidinu shomreinu b'chayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu v'shalom v'hamidinu shomreinu b'chayim. Baruch atah Adonai, Mapuri Sukat Shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. The people of Israel will keep Shabbat. Observing Shabbat throughout the ages is a covenant for all time. Sign for all time between me and the people of Israel, God said. There will be reminded that in 6 days God made the heavens and the earth. And on the seventh day God rested. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamid olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamid olam. V'niven b'nei Yisrael od le'olam. Oh, Leolam, V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamid olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha-haaretz. Et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamid olam. U'v'yom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamid olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dor tamid olam. We'll turn to page 164. We'll rise for our Amidah. We'll sing the first few paragraphs together, and then we'll take time for our own silent prayers. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chaste Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Liman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechai HaKol Atah, Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Oholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Kivurot, Umido Melach, Melech Neimit, Umechaye, Umatmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atah L'chayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaKol, Atah Kadosh, Shimcha Kadosh, Ukedoshim B'chol Yom Yehalelucha Selah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Continue silently. When you're finished with your prayers, please be seated. We'll finish our Amidah with a prayer for peace. Ose shalom bimroma, uya'aseh shalom aleinu, le'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ose shalom bimroma, uya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 Page 371 in your Siddur. We take a moment to think of those who are in need of healing, healing of body, healing of mind, healing of soul. We ask God to bring refuah shlema, complete healing, to Naomi Talia Batsara, Gnendel Batsima, Don Emmerich, Susan Schenk, Stanley Sachs, Reuven Ben Shlomo Mordechai Vitzipora, Dick Taxman, Kara Weiner, Sawyer Henderson, David Ben Label, Ellen Sopkin, Stephanie Epstein, Sori Shaddai Batsara, Batsheva Batshprinsa, Lori Wilthelm, Rita Everett, William Benden, Leandra Dickey, Michael Ward, Zelda Profeta and Morris Profeta, Edie Finkelman, Louis Dobin, Amber Logan, Saul Rothside, William Graziano, Carrie Abrams, and Rachel Potter. If we have any other names for healing, we'll start over on this side of the room. If anybody has any names you'd like to add. Thank you. Any others on this side? Thank you. Any others? On this side of the room, any names for healing? Thank you. For all those we've named and for all those who are in need of blessings for healing, we ask God to bring them quickly as we sing these words of Mishaberach in the middle of page 371. Mishaberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Sheberach imotenu mikor habracha ve'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Tonight is the fifth night or the fifth Friday night, I just say, the fifth Friday night of August. What month are we? It's September, Monday. There we go. Tonight's the fifth Friday night of August. There we go. I think that's what's correct. And as I've been doing for many, many years, this Friday night, the fifth Friday night of the month, instead of me giving a sermon to you, you get to decide what I'm going to talk about, because this is Ask the Rabbi night. So this is the night where if there's things you've always wondered about Judaism, what does Judaism say about this? Why did Jews do that in the service? What does this mean, or what am I supposed to do? Now is the time that you get to ask, and I get to answer. So I have a little water. Who's the first victim? Questioner. Who wants to know something? Carolyn, go ahead.
Earlier, the question about name changing, so we can talk about that. But I have another question.
Okay.
You never sing Islahu, and I want to know why.
So on page one, where is it? I don't know, 140 something or somewhere around there. On that page, it says Vishamru at the top of the page, and it says Yismachu at the bottom of the page. Why do I never sing that? Because I don't like it. No, that's not true. That's really not true. It's actually really, the reason is because Yismachu, it was put into this Siddur, this Mishkan Tefillah. It was put into Mishkan Tefillah as an alternative to the traditional prayer that goes right there. Because Yismachu, actually, it's not in the traditional Friday night service. It's actually traditionally in the Saturday morning service in the Musaf Amidah. Okay? And so that's the place where it appears in the service. But the Reform movement, when does the Reform movement recite the Musaf Amidah? Anybody know? Never, because it's not in the Reform prayer book. They took the Musaf Amidah out. If you don't know what Musaf Amidah is, it's a second Amidah. Musaf means additional. So the Musaf service is the additional service. Some people who come on Saturday morning say that's the part of the service that makes it 15 minutes longer. And they would be correct. But it's a repetition of the Amidah, because it mimics the idea that there was a second sacrifice on Shabbat in the tent of meeting in the desert. The Reform movement, in among the many things that it did with the prayer book, with the Sidurs, it said, one of the things we want to get rid of is repetition. We don't need to say the same prayer 3-4 times. If you come on Saturday mornings here, we say Chatzi Kaddish 3 times. We say Kaddish Shalem twice. We say Kaddish Yatom once. So we say Kaddish 6 times. Tonight we'll say one twice. We said one at the beginning of the service. We'll say Kaddish Yatom the mourners, Kaddish at the end of the service. That's 2. Tomorrow morning we're going to say a Kaddish 3 different ones, one of them 3 times, one of them 2 times, and one of them 1 time. That's a lot of repetition, right? And the Reform movement said, why are we, and these are not Reform rabbis of 2015, these are Reform rabbis of 1830 to 1835. And they said, we don't want to repeat stuff, so we're going to get rid of the things that repeat. Somewhere after the first American Reform prayer book, which was called Minhag America, it was written in the late 1880s, Minhag America. Minhag means custom, and America means American, right? Minhag America means American custom. Sometime after the beginning of that prayer book, that was the first American Reform prayer book, Vishamru was in there on Friday night in the place of honoring Shabbat in those prayers. Yismachu was not. Somewhere between that and the Union prayer book, which was written in about the 1930s, somewhere some group of rabbis said, there's this prayer Yismachu, and somebody wrote a great melody for it, but we don't sing it because we never say the Musaf Amidah, but it's in there. Why don't we steal it from the Musaf Amidah and we'll stick it right here where Vishamru is, because it also talks about Shabbat. It really was almost a random thing, but they found a prayer about Shabbat, because that's what Yismachu is. And so they took that prayer and added it into that section. So why don't we sing it here? I actually have on occasion, but I kind of like what Vishamru represents, so I tend to pick that over the other one. But every once in a while, I've sung Yismichu on a Friday night. And we've also, if you come on a Saturday morning, if I look up at the clock and I see we have a little extra time, I pick up my guitar and we sing Yismichu. And if you're sitting where most of you are sitting up in the front right here, if you would turn around, there's a whole big circle of little children dancing around in the back on Saturday mornings if we sing Yismichu. So yeah, so that's really the reason it traditionally it's not there. The Reform movement put it there because there was a prayer out of the Musaf. Why didn't they take the rest of the Musaf Amidah? Because it's a repetition of the stuff we do in the regular Amidah. Additionally, there are parts in that Amidah, the Musaf Amidah, which talk about bringing the sacrifices back to the temple in Jerusalem, which the Reform movement also doesn't want. So if you take away the repeated stuff and you take away the sacrifice stuff, Yismichu and like 2 other paragraphs are left right there. And so they grab that one and put it in the book, and occasionally we sing it, but that's why it's there. Yeah.
And then the name changes?
Huh? The name changes. So Carolyn asked me a question earlier. She talked about somebody about changing their name because an event happened in their life. There's a Hasidic tradition. It's not really a tradition in most of the rest of the Jewish world, but there's a Hasidic tradition that if something goes wrong, do you know what you need to do if something in your life goes wrong? Change the mezuzah on your front door. Because clearly, you don't know that the mezuzah on your front door is not kosher. Because if it was kosher, something bad would not have happened to you. It's a superstition. It's not a reality. It's not a Jewish law. It's a custom. It's a superstition of this. But there's in the Hasidic world, somewhere between maybe the 1400s and the 1700s, we think, is where this superstition started to come about, that if something bad happens to you, then you should change the mezuzah on your door because clearly it's either cursed or not kosher. And so you need to get rid of it and put a new mezuzah that's kosher on your door. Now that is not, you can leave the fancy decoration, the box it's in. I'm talking about the cloth, the scroll that's on the inside. Out of that tradition also came another Hasidic tradition of if something bad happens to you, you should change your name. Because clearly it wasn't happening to you, it was happening to your name. Although maybe it was happening to you, and the way that you can hide from the evil angels who might be bringing that evil upon you is change your name. Because if you don't have that name anymore, the angels won't be able to find you, the evil angels that are going to bring evil upon you. And so if you change your name, you will be protected. And if you change your name to a name of perhaps someone who was great and amazing and incredible in your family, a patriarch or a matriarch in your family who was a legendary person who everybody adored and was wonderful, maybe their name and their spirit will protect you as well. There's nothing in Jewish law about this. There's nothing in the Torah about this. It's just somewhere in the Middle Ages, these customs developed, probably, I don't know for sure, but probably out of a bit of acculturation, that we sort of pick up little pieces of the cultures in which we live, since Jews have lived all over the world inside of and amongst other cultures. We've picked things up along the way and made them a little more Jewish than they were before. So where does it exactly come from? We don't know. Somewhere in the Middle Ages to a little bit later than the Middle Ages. And yeah, a Hasidic custom of if you change your name, the evil angels won't be able, or the Satan, as we call it in Hebrew, will not be able to find you, because they'll open up. We'll make a really old reference here. Some of the younger people in the room won't get it, but they'll open up the white pages and they won't find you in there. I know there's a couple people in the room who don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, the evil angels will look you up and won't find you. So that's where the tradition comes from, somewhere in Eastern Europe. Yeah.
Eastern Europe and probably Eastern Nation. My son, for his bar mitzvah project, played chess with a Russian man whose name was Alter, because 3 people in his family got polio and they didn't want him to get polio. But Alter, I think, was like, he was Alter Moshe instead of Moshe.
Yeah, so Alter means older in Yiddish. So Alter Moshe is the older Moshe. The younger Moshe, he may get polio.
Right.
But the Alter Moshe, nah, wouldn't happen to him. And so people will do that with names, sure.
His reference to Daniel was the Book of Life, that the Book of Life has everyone's name, and, so the angels look there to see who needs to get whatever. Every year we talk about it at Rosh
Yeah, at Rosh Hashanah we say that your name is put in the book of life or the book of death. And if your name's in the book of death, but that's not your name anymore. I know, there you go.
Or not, what's the word for not? Like it was not whatever.
The knot thing.
Yeah.
Does everybody know about counting knots? And I don't mean K-N-O-T, I mean N-O-T, right? How do you count Jews? Does everybody know, right? Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, because we're only supposed to take a census of Jews when God says so, and God's only done it twice, both times in the Torah. And so there's another Ashkenazi superstition. Sephardic Jews have superstitions too, but just this happens to be another one, is that if we do a census without God's permission, God will strike us down. So when we count for a minyan, we go not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 9, a minyan. And that's how you count to a minyan. But you don't say 10, you just say a minyan, because you're not counting the actual people, you're just recognizing that there's a minyan present. So, yeah.
Skulls, right?
Huh?
And you count skulls.
Yeah, but not 1, not 2. Yeah, there we go. Other questions? What do you want to know? What? Danny.
In Rosh Hashanah, the Unatan Tokef prayer talks about all the things that may happen, I guess, death by fire, death by stone.
Yes.
But there's this phrase that says, but tshuva, tzedakah, and tefillah. Will that annul the decree, reduce the sting of the decree?
It'll overturn it. Yeah, you can translate it, annul it, overturn it, reduce it. You can translate it any of those ways. So this prayer, Unatani Tokef, it was written several hundred years ago by, and by reading it, you know, I'm picking on Ashkenazi Jews tonight. It was written by an Ashkenazi rabbi. If you go to a Sephardic synagogue, you will not hear Unatani Tokef. It is not in the Machzor of the Sephardic world. It's only in the world of the Ashkenazi world. I had a class when I was in rabbinical school on Sephardic liturgy. And the professor who taught the class, we were talking about High Holy Day liturgy, and he said, he actually said, what the hell is wrong with you Ashkenazi Jews? That's what he said in class. He said, you have a prayer in your prayer book for high holidays on Rosh Hashanah, who will burn in a fire, and who will die by drowning, and who will be stabbed, and who will starve. What's wrong with you people? You have a prayer. He said, in our synagogue, we don't have a prayer like this. So why is there a prayer like this? Because Unatani Tokef is what's called in Hebrew a piyut. A piyut is a liturgical poem. And if you go to an Orthodox synagogue for Rosh Hashanah, the Orthodox Ashkenazi custom is once a piyut is in the Machzor, the High Holiday Prayer Book, it stays forever. There's like 50 pages of piyutim that if you're in a traditional Orthodox synagogue, you'll hear all of them. Unatani Tokef was one of those. It was written by a guy who was a prisoner. He was a rabbi. He was a prisoner, and he talked about how horrible it was to live in the place where he was, and how God was going to try to save us and whatever. And supposedly he wrote the last words of this liturgical poem, Unatani Tokef, as his captors, according to legend, were chopping his legs off. I mean, it's a horrible story. I mean, like they tortured him and killed him, and his students wrote down his words that he was saying, trying to pray to God to save himself. And this is where Unatani Tokef comes from. But at some point in time, the piyut, someone wrote a melody for it. Well, he did write a melody for it, but much later than these other guys who wrote it a few hundred years ago. Yeah, Leonard Cohen did write a melody for it, actually, and it's actually really beautiful and amazing. But a few hundred years ago, someone wrote a melody, and that's Utzdaka, Utashuva, Utafila, that we sing right on Rosh Hashanah morning. That melody stuck for a few hundred years into the communion. They said we can't get rid of that prayer because it's part of what we have. And so it is there's this, it's one rabbi from a few hundred years ago. It's his thoughts on how do we get out of the horrible situations that we're in. He was in Germany several hundred years ago. And how do we get out of the terrible things of pogroms and other horrible things that are happening to the Jews, and how can we pray, and what will God do to bring us out of it? And somehow that made it into the High Holiday Prayer Book because people felt it was appropriate amongst the other pieces of tefillah that were in there in the service. And that's where it comes from. But that prayer and charity and it will overturn the decree. This was his prayer that for him didn't come true. But we put that prayer in our book in hopes that it will come true. I think for most people, now that you know that it's not in the Sephardic prayer book, I think a lot of people would say, we could follow the Sephardic custom here. And not, I mean, because it's like 6 pages long in our Machzor. It's like, it has a lot of pieces to it. But that's where it comes from.
Well, the fairy tales that I grew up with, they were all German, were very gruesome.
Mm-hmm. So it would make sense that this would be a poem with a gruesome story to go along with it. If it comes out of the images of old German fairy tales, it would make very much sense that it would be that. But he was supposedly he wrote the last parts of it as he was being killed and tortured and all these horrible things. And so he's like, and because it really is, if you think about that, the idea, who will die by fire? I hope no one. Who will die by drowning? I still hope no one. Who will be stabbed to death? I said all these horrible things. But what I don't see in there is who will die by natural causes and Yeah, but it's at the end though, right? But there's all these really bad ways, and so you make you wonder. But tradition had it in there, and even in the more liberal movements, it became such a fixture of the service that it kept in. I mean, we have another prayer, similar thing, Aleinu, which we're going to say in just a few minutes from now, right? Aleinu, we say it every Friday night, right? Every Saturday morning, right? It was originally, it was only in the first ever Siddur back in the 800s. It was only on Rosh Hashanah morning. It was the only time Aleinu was ever said. And then people started to like that prayer. They're like, let's say it this Shabbat, and they did. And then it stuck and it stayed. And so through history, the Siddur has changed. And so sometimes something comes in that's wonderful and it's there. And sometimes other things come in and we say, why do we still say that? I will tell you, for me, every time we get to Unatane Tokef in the service, I think to myself, why do we still say this? Because for me, it doesn't have a lot of meaning. I do it because it's in the service and the congregation's supposed to do it. But when we get to that point, for me, I just kind of wait to get through the pages of that prayer, because not every prayer can have deep meaning for every person. I, like all of you, have to find the prayer that means a lot to you. And if that one means something to you, then you should delve into it. Yeah. Bonus question.
So I was looking at the Torah reference to Rosh Hashanah, and it's very sparse. I think it says basically the 7th day of the 7th month, there's a big convocation. When did all of the other interpretations and add-ons get added on?
So the Torah tells us that Yom Teruah, there's no Rosh Hashanah in the Torah. It doesn't actually say Rosh Hashanah. Yom Teruah, the day of the shofar blast, will be on the first day of the first month. Now, or excuse me, on the first day of the 7th month. Because the first month, what's the first month? Nisan. And Nisan is the month of what holiday? Pesach. That's the first month. That's the new year for years and kings and such, for the holidays. But the new year for creation is Rosh Hashanah. So it says, on the first day of the 7th month, you have a convocation, you will blast the shofar, and you will make these sacrifices. That's what we get for most of the holidays. There's no Passover Seder in the Torah. There's no there's no lulav and etrog in the Torah. There's the fruit of the good tree. We said that's an etrog. And there's the leaves of the 3 species. We decided later it doesn't tell us to have an etrog and palm leaves and willow leaves and myrtle leaves. It tells us the fruit of the good tree and the leaves of the 3 species. It doesn't tell us to say New Year prayer. It tells us to blow the shofar. It doesn't tell us to eat cheesecake on Shavuot, right? So what happened? What happened is a thing called the Talmud. The temple's destroyed, the second temple, and we have a choice. If this sounds familiar to those of you in my conversion class from this week's class, this should sound familiar to you because we talked about this exact idea in our class. The second temple's destroyed, the Romans have taken over Israel. In order for us to continue on with Judaism, we have to figure out, what are we going to do? We can either try to rebuild the temple. We can't because the Romans took over. We've been kicked out of our country, so we can either assimilate or we can try to do something new, and they reinvented Judaism. And they said, so what are we going to do? We're going to create rituals that will replace the sacrifices that we did in the temple. So to replace the sacrifices for Pesach, they created the Seder. To get rid of to replace the sacrifices on Rosh Hashanah, we'll create traditions of prayers that we say, and we'll still blow the shofar. And so that's what happened, is the Talmud, that after the second temple was destroyed, we couldn't continue as a Jewish people because our Judaism was making sacrifices in the temple. So you had to replace it with something. And so this is what we replaced it with. There's an expression that's a post-Talmudic expression. It says, Tfilah bimkom korban. It means prayer in place of sacrifice. And they call it, I'll translate from the Hebrew, a bloodless revolution. The Sadducees wanted to continue the sacrifice in the temple, but there wasn't one. And there's a commandment. We actually read it in this week's Torah portion. It's one of the commandments that says, you can only do the sacrifices in the place that God has assigned you. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. The Romans plowed it under, right? So we can't do sacrifices because that would be breaking the law. So the Pharisees came along. Later they called themselves rabbi, but in the time they were called Pharisees. And they came along and said, we are going to replace the sacrifices with prayer and rituals that we're going to create. And we're going to try to model them after things maybe in other societies or such. For instance, the Passover Seder is a Roman celebration dinner taken with Jewish symbolism. That's where the Seder came from. When I get, and I told this to my conversion students on Tuesday, that every year I get phone calls from Christian churches who ask me to come to their church and do a Seder for them so they can experience what Jesus experienced. And I tell them, I can't do that because Jesus never went to a Seder. And they say, the Last Supper was a Seder. And I said, not unless Jesus had a time machine, because the first Seder was in the year around 100, and Jesus doesn't live around the year 100. So it's not possible that could be a thing. But over time, over a period from around the year 50 to around the year 500, when the Talmud is codified, the rabbis create ceremony around these holidays that are in the Torah that are only sacrifices not from 50, from 70 at the destruction of the temple till 500, they create rituals to replace the sacrifices. So that's where all those things come from. And then you can read in the Talmud how they argue with each other over what the sacrifice should be. But our prayers on Rosh Hashanah, they replace sacrifices. And instead of avodat halev, which means service of the heart, in ancient times, service of the heart was presenting the animals for sacrifices. In modern times, avodat halev is literally the prayer inside of our hearts. There we go. A little learning. I learned something. I hope you did. We'll come to the concluding prayers of our service. As we'll turn to page 586 for the prayer that used to only be on Rosh Hashanah, but now we actually include it in our service every day, Aleinu, and we'll all rise and we'll join together at the very bottom of the page. Aleinu d'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kogoye haratzot, velo samanu kimishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamalachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu noteh shamayim veyoser haaretz, umoshav yikaro bashamayim mima'al, ushchinatu zo, begovhei meheromim, hu Eloheinu einod, emet malkeinu efesu lato, kakatuv betorato, vyadata hayom bashivota elevavecha, ki Adonai hua Elohim, bashamayim mima'al, ve'al haaretz, mitachat einod. Middle of 590. Ki amalchut shel chayol emet timloch bechavod, kakatuv b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol ha'aretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad, Ushemo echad. We can all be seated. In our yard sites this week, we recall the memories of Barbara Lindsay, Daniel Deutscher, Edwin Weissler, Etta White, Grace Hillhouse, Jose Gonzalez, Clara Schatzker, Manny Greenberg, Paul Schatzker, Clara Savitt, Dora Schatz, Abraham Levine, Alan Mainzer, Edith Potikin, Edward Schnee, Jane Roberts, Joseph Levin, Marilyn Hirschliefer, Marion Fisher, Mary Kelmer, Hyman Waldbaum, Irma Rubin, Kalman Cohen, Antonika Sopko, Benjamin Selig, Daniel Deutscher, Jack Ginsberg, Jerry Bach, John Sopko, Norman Weinston, Rose Berman, Steve Chernow, Charles Duchin, David Eisenstadt, Eric Flaxenberg, Esther Bloomfield, Martin Wolf, Rose Johnson, Erwin Friedman, Joel Weiss, Judith Waller, and Marie Antoinette Sorcher. Are there any other yard sites that anyone is observing this week? Yehi zichronam levracha, may their memories be a blessing. We ask mourners to rise, and those whose custom it is to stand. So we turn to page 598, and in their memory we sanctify God's name with the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach la'olam u'lalmei almaya, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yithalal, shemei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. We can all be seated, and Carolyn has announcements for us of things upcoming as we enter the month leading us up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for coming on this very long weekend. We appreciate it. And thank you to Jay Sherwood, our wonderful rabbi, for answering everybody's weird questions, mine particularly. Thank you. Temple Shalom has a new firearm policy. Check out the link on our website. Members can now sign up to be greeters, if you want, for events and services at Temple Shalom. That's the link is going to be under the Israeli flag on the homepage. Save the date, pickleball, 4th of September in Monument Valley, 9:30 a.m. Instructions and paddles are available. You can be completely uncoordinated, I am told, so I can do that. Saturday the 13th is the Sukkot service at 7, right? Sunday the 14th is Boker Tov Sunday Club, and it's on estate planning with Jewish Colorado and our Temple Shalom Foundation representatives. Davening is at 9, breakfast is at 9:30, the program is at 10. Register on the website. Adult education happenings, crash course in Hebrew starts Tuesday the 9th at 6:30 to 8 with wonderful Kobe. And the new Milton class, Jewish Humor from Sinai to Seinfeld, Jews and Their Jokes, facilitated by Chomi Humash, starts the 8th at 6 o'clock. I think that's a Wednesday. Holiday happenings, you should have your packets with your tickets. You should also have, if you said you would, your invitation to do something on the holiday. The memorial book, Yizkor book, the form is working and accessible. If you need a hard copy form, they're in the foyer, otherwise at the temple website. Order your etrog and lulav set. Monday the 15th, we just talked about that, by the 15th, or you won't get it. So call or email the office. Bring your baked goods for Erev Rosh Hashanah dessert oneg. If you have any questions, contact Susan Schenk. And Friday, the 26th of September, Apple Wars. Right? So if you know a temple member or anyone who's ill, hospitalized, or suffering from a loss, contact the temple, because that's how we know. Thank you, James, for the oneg. Ta-da, told you. That was pretty short, really.
Thank you. Well, since Carolyn mentioned it, page 162, at the bottom of the page.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a beautiful Shabbat song, Yismechu. Yismechu v'malechutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Aham mikarishi shvi Shabbat. Kulam yisbeu v'yitangu mituvecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdad yamin oto karata Shabbat Yismechu b'malchutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat B'korei Onei Shabbat Yismechu b'malchutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat B'korei Onei Shabbat Zecher L'maaseh Bereshit Shabbat Zecher L'maaseh Bereshit Shabbat Yismechu b'malchutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat B'korei Onei Shabbat Yismechu b'malchutecha Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat B'korei Onei Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please join us for Kiddush and Motzi in the back of the room.